The Democrats and many on the left worked around the clock to kill Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court. But I think they made a fatal miscalculation. They thought it was okay along the way to jettison the principle of due process and to use victims to pursue a radical political agenda. And on this first-year anniversary of the Me Too movement, I think it's important to remember that this all started with liberal Democrat Harvey Weinstein, friend of Bill and Hillary's, and of course Barack Obama. And remember, he, the Hollywood mogul, big mega donor, I mean, this guy is where it all happened. And remember, the abuse there started the cultural moment of Me Too. This notion of objectifying women and using them for the pleasure of the powerful has been long nurtured by the left. At the same time, they're like, oh, we're so pro-women as we abuse women on the casting couch, etc. And the entertainment industry had the target on its back. But now we see the same mentality at play in the Kavanaugh struggle. For all their claims to be defenders of women, the Democrats cynically and I think cruelly used Christine Ford in a desperate attempt to derail a Supreme Court nominee. Remember, she didn't initially want to come forward to tell her story. She was dragged into the open by political leaks to the Washington Post and other media outlets. And remember, reporters surrounded her home. And then she was forced to tell her story. And today, we learned of more dirty tricks from these activist lawyers behind the scenes. Remember Leland Kaiser? She was the person who Ford claimed was at the party where Kavanaugh allegedly assaulted her, one of her close friends. Well, Kaiser previously told the Senate committee that she didn't know of such a party and didn't even know Kavanaugh to begin with. Today, though, she told the Wall Street Journal that in the FBI that a former agent, another friend of Christine Ford, Monica McLean, pressured her to change her account to corroborate Ford's account. Unbelievable. Well, in a speech announcing her decision to vote for Kavanaugh's confirmation today, Senator Susan Collins perfectly summed up the callousness of the Democrats.
Some people who wanted to engineer the defeat of this nomination cared little, if at all, for her well-being. Professor Ford testified that a very limited number of people had access to her letter. Yet that letter found its way into the public domain.
And today, Dianne Feinstein left no doubt as to what this nasty, senseless battle was really all about all along. The left's desire to use the Supreme Court to impose liberal social values on society.
Another issue that gives me great pause is Judge Kavanaugh's extreme view on guns, the challenging realities women face. Roe v. Wade, what kind of medical care you can receive.
Well, this has been a problem for decades. The American left believes the court should be kind of a super legislature, a body that makes law rather than interprets law. Since Trump announced his candidacy to the presidency, the left has been in perpetual rage mode. And of course, this continued into the night. And it's going to go on for some time. And this is how they attempted to influence Susan Collins before she announced her vote. Check it out.
Don't put a liar on the court. Mine made up. Don't put a liar on the court. 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 Don't put a liar on the court.
Ah, nice. And this is how they worked their charms on Democrat Joe Manchin after he announced he was supporting Kavanaugh.
Shame, but based on what you've seen, was that a thorough investigation?
At least it's a one-word chant. It's easy to follow. You know what's really shameful? Democrats who use victimhood as their defining principle. They'd rather have people dependent on government, helpless without it, especially certain groups, minorities, immigrants, and even women. We're supposed to believe that we can't survive and thrive without an activist court making up new rights, finding them in the Constitution. And they demand that we believe anyone who claims victim status. We have to take them at their word, regardless of where the facts lie. But for all their screaming and their tiresome chanting, the left's basically come up empty this time. Most Americans don't see themselves as victims. We're not powerless or weak. We're strong and independent. This was the Democrats' miscalculation. They thought emotional extortion and protester histrionics would be enough to block a well-qualified Supreme Court nominee. But once again, they let their rabid political ideology blind them to the fact that Americans are fair-minded, have a basic goodness about them, and they're optimistic about the future. They don't need an activist Supreme Court to see the light, to know where we are as a people, to see our future. And that's the angle.